Hello, welcome to the show, to Wider Circles with me, if you will, Heka, also known as Krista Mann. She's been a practicing pagan since 1999. Her focus is on ancestor reverence and honoring the deities of Egypt and of West Africa. Currently, she's the high priestess of a small coven based in Midland, Michigan, and co-founder of Mid Michigan Pagan Alliance out of Saginaw, Michigan. She's also an organizer of the Mobile BLM Memorial Project. Welcome to Wider Circles, Krista. How are you?
Good, Jack. How are you?
I am great. Thank you for being here with me today.
Oh, I'm honored. Thank you.
Oh, you're sweet. So what's keeping you busy these days?
Mostly family. I'm about to be a grandmother.
Ooh, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited now. I wasn't happy at first. I swear I'm too young for that. um,
Wow.
Super excited about that. But mostly home and family right now. I left a job to focus more on the projects that I want to do and my family. So I'm really loving life at the moment.
Great. That's one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on today, was to help spotlight, to help put boost the signal of some of the projects that you're working on right now.
Okay.
Um, well, but before we go into some of that, let's move back in time, go back and talk a little bit about your origin story. Let's unpack a little bit of that. Whatever you want to share with us about what's brought you here today, what's your childhood, or wherever we want to go.
Okay. Well, I think origin is a great place to start because I think so much of my childhood kind of feeds into who I am today and why
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to do some of those things. So, I was born in New York City. Um, I spent the first 16 years of my life on the East Coast. Um, Moved to Michigan. I'm biracial. So diversity is kind of a big thing in my life, right?
Right.
I've lived from city. I currently live in Sanford, Michigan, which is um, the home of my mother, where my mother was born.
Okay.
Um,
And that's a
yeah,
rather rural area too, isn't it?
it's a very rural
Mm-hmm.
area.
Yes.
So my life, I've kind of been able to, I've lived in Flint, I've lived in Newark, New Jersey, I lived in Wilmington, Delaware. So a lot of big cities, a lot of small towns, and now it's the rural lifestyle for me.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
You're working your way through the spectrum.
Man, a pure Scorpio style. I feel like I've lived so many different lives in this one life,
Right. Right. The flowing stream. Yep.
But yeah, exactly. My parents met in New York in the 70s, and it's really great whenever I had my mother would tell some story, that would be shocking or I drop my jaw. Her big response was, "It was 70s in New York. What do you think?" That's
I won't pry
all
because
of
they sound good stories.
right.
Great. Oh.
So that's kind of the background I come from.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritually, my parents weren't spiritual. My mother was as Christian as most Christians are, didn't care to go to church very often. Um, but I was from a little kid hopping on church buses, and my first job was working in a childcare, a daycare center in a
Mm-hmm.
church, you know.
Right.
Uh, so I feel like I've always been on this, spiritual church. I was baptized 3 times. Right?
Three's the magic number, or one of them.
I kept trying. Um, but it led me to paganism, and my first love was the Egyptian mythologies. And I think it would be appropriate to say I think that that was kind of a transitionary spiritual move for me.
Okay.
Um, because I still have my Holy Trinity, but now I had this feminine aspect, right? Um,
Yes.
that was kind of missing from Christianity for me. You know, I read the Bible a lot and never really related with the women in the Bible. The ones they said were the good women, I didn't
Right.
really appreciate them or see myself fitting in that mold. So I found ISIS and that was it.
Yeah. Yep.
Look back.
And then everything fell into place. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. Wow. So, okay, so we know that you work widely with the Egyptian deities. What does your spiritual path look like?
Um, it's very eclectic.
Hmm.
Mostly Egyptian deities, African deities.
Hmm.
Um, I have to say, I don't presume to be initiated into any specific religion.
Hmm.
A lot of my spiritual practice focuses around full moon ceremonies and based on astrology and different goddesses. And for me, that's been a way to introduce different goddesses to people
Yeah.
and, and build a connection. So I've worked with lots of different goddesses that way. My heart is always with the dark goddesses of
Mhm.
all the different paths.
Right.
So that's what my spirituality looks like. It's always focused in ancestor reverence. That's, the
That's
foundation.
always a central piece. Yeah. Yeah. I get that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, well, what have you read or listened to recently that's inspired you?
I am reading Emergent Strategies right now.
Hmm.
Um, it's basically an organizer's handbook, but I am loving this idea because it's very pagan-esque. It's about creating organizations that aren't hierarchical and how to look at nature as a way to solve problems. Like, for example, like dandelions bloom everywhere. What makes them so hardy and able to thrive in any situation?
Mm.
So it's a really, really great book, and I'm loving it.
Oh, and what's the name of that book again?
Emergent Strategies.
Great. Do you, by chance, not to put you on the spot, do you know who the author is?
I was trying to remember off the top of
Right.
my
I
mind.
kind of knew when I was asking that. I'm like, I'm putting him on the spot. Whoops. It's okay. We all have the Google device, the Oracle of Google.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the BLM Mobile Project, Memorial Project. And because I had heard about it through social media, I kept seeing the writings, and I was like, "What's that about? That sounds like obviously it's very it's touching and it's very emotional. It's very it with reverence and everything. It but at the same time it was very inspirational to see that moving forward. And so let's talk a little bit about that. How did that begin, and what does it look like?
Okay. So a little background. I was very inspired by my younger sister,
Hmm.
Kira. She had recently moved to Orlando when George Floyd was murdered. Um, so she was on the front lines. She was getting tear gassed every day for the
Mm.
first week she was down there. Um, and it was very traumatic and very powerful, you know, and it made me think, um, you know, because she's 18 years younger than me, right? So there's that whole generation
Yes.
gap between us. And it made me feel like my generation dropped the ball, to be honest, Jack. Um, I felt like growing up, you know, I was born in 75 and through the 80s and 90s. I really like my parents were protesters, you know. I felt like people had done their job. My parents had paid the price. And yeah, some things weren't great, but we kind of accepted some things that weren't, you know.
Right.
And so because ancestor reverence is so important to me, right? Thinking about, you know, what they gave and what I'm doing to make it better for my descendants, you know, I really felt like I dropped the ball. That my younger sister was out there fighting for me, for things that shouldn't happen. People shouldn't be being killed by police. At very least, they should be, you know, tried. You know,
Yeah. That we should
so
see justice. Yeah.
right. And so, I ran to the woods because that's kind of what I do when I'm up. I don't know what to do. I'm kind of a tree talker.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I was camping, I really went in with the question, what is my role here, right? Because my role is not to be on the front lines, you know, ducking tear gas. I'm 45 years old, you
Right.
know,
Yes. Right.
right? Um, what is my role? And so I started thinking about what I was seeing wrong. And the big thing that I saw that was heartbreaking to me is that these protesters were being demonized. You know, they
Mm-hmm.
were being called rioters and looters, and um just the rallies I had been to were so full of love and the opposite of the way they were the media was portraying,
Right.
uh, that I wanted to I felt like the message is getting lost. Why they're out there is getting lost. And the message is people are dying, you know, and Black people are dying at, you know, 2.5 times the rate of, you know, everyone else.
Right.
One of the scariest statistics that I've learned since I started is that 51% of people killed by police are people with mental health or developmental disabilities, which I've worked in that field forever too. So that hit home. So BLM basically, the mobile project was to refocus on the fact that people are dying, and I wanted it to have a visual impact because sometimes when we would speak about statistics, people become numbers, and
They just become numbers, right?
right. And so what I envisioned, and so many people came together um, to make it happen, was that we just built crosses, and we took names from the Washington Post database, and we built crosses from the present time at the start of the building of crosses, which was like the end of August, to 2018, and we built over 600 crosses in 7 weeks. And we
Mm.
wrote the victims' names on them and their ages. And very quickly, my acre of land became a cemetery, you know,
Right.
as building them. And I just wanted the visual impact was important to me, and the building of community around it, because this project has been healing for me, if nothing else,
Yes.
because I've had so many people come and reach out and assist, people that I hardly know. Um, Dame came. You were speaking that you had just interviewed her.
Yes.
And Celeste, and these are people I know from convocation. I don't have real tight connections with. Kenya came out. We have a woman group in Midland, which is a women's progressive democratic group. The UU church where I used to do full moon ceremonies, they donated. People came out and built crosses, and we talked, and they listened, and it was a beautiful time. My hope is that when the weather gets warm again, that we will be invited to kind of do this candlelight vigil, because it turned into a full-on service, after we built all of the crosses. And the first place we went was to the Saginaw County courthouse, and just built the cemetery and had a ritual there. So my hope for the future is that we can build more crosses, because honestly, every 2 days, somebody else is murdered by police. We have not gone since 2015 more than 48 hours without someone dying at the hands of police. And so the list is constantly growing. And this database goes back to that I'm working from 2015. And there's over 5,000 names on that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know when I tuned into the live stream that I believe that what I heard was that you had the roll call was from just the last 2 years, and it took I think just a little over an hour.
Correct.
With back to back naming. It was very touching. I mean, even a live stream, not even being there in person.
Thank you.
It definitely transmitted. And I want to thank you for doing that work. And I think that was another piece that I wanted to bring out, was that if there is a listener that is in a position, whether they be an event coordinator, or if they just want to provide the space for the BLM Memorial Mobile Project to come to them, how would they go about that?
So they could reach us directly. We have a Facebook page that we answer. We're pretty responsive. Myself, my sister, and Vicky Vaughn all edit that. So Vicky's always on top of it,
Right.
So you would get a quick response. It's on Facebook. It's just named the Mobile BLM Vigil Project. So
okay.
Pretty easy to find.
I love the fact that not only is what you're doing, not only is it an act of reverence and saying their names, but this is also turning into a community building sort of project. Like you said, the people coming from, like the strangers coming in, people that you hardly knew, and these things coming in to work on the project together. And I think we need more things like this to help build true community.
Absolutely. And honestly, that was kind of like the icing on the cake for me, right? Because I had subjective, and it had to be this one. But I honestly didn't know if it, I'm one of those people who have all these ideals that kind of float through my head, and always find a reason that it can't work. This project, though, I really sat down and listened to the spirits, and my ancestors. And I was like, okay, if we want this to happen, I need some help here. And everybody, just about everybody I contacted was through the roof and bent over backwards. So the community building, which I think is so beautiful, was the icing on the cake. I mean, I had people just sit and listen to my sister's experiences on the front lines as we're building crosses. The conversations about the experience from being in being in my skin, being a Black person and growing up in militarized communities. I mean, a lot of these people that came out to help me were, cis white women from Midland that, admittedly to, say to me, they were in a bubble before Trump was elected,
I thought everything was fixed.
Yeah, everything was great. Like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
But they're listening,
Right.
and validating the experience. I mean, Black Lives Matter has been a thing for, almost 7 years now.
Yeah, something like that.
And so the love and the beauty that is coming out. I wrote a poem that actually won an award through the Midland Democrats about my experience in Lansing at a Lansing rally when they were first starting. And because it was beautiful, it was, I saw, white allies chanting, say it loud, and Black people in the groups saying, I'm Black and I'm proud. But for it to be a unifying stance, and a standing of beauty and the necessity to say that Black Lives Matter. And it's okay, proud to be Black. It was life altering, and it's all because of community. It's all the love and the togetherness that came through all of this.
Right. Group affirmation. Right. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, so is there anything else that you want to unpack about the BLM Mobile Project? I personally hope to perhaps next year have the ability to have you come to Flint somewhere, but we'll talk about that another time.
I would love that. I lived in Flint for 8 years.
Right. When you said that, I was like, ooh.
Yeah. I would love to bring it home there, so.
Right. So is there anything else that you want to bring out about anything that we missed about BLM Mobile?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. What 3 people in your life have been most influential to you?
That's always evolving. Always my mother, the mother-daughter relationship is always so complex. We lost her, gosh, it was in 2007. I was much older than my younger siblings. And so I kind of had to carry the torch. And, daughters are kind of judgmental, right? Especially the older daughter, right? So I always given her a hard time. And now the older that I get, the more I appreciate the qualities and traits that I'm still trying to develop that she had with ease and grace,
Right.
The ability to make everybody feel loved when you walk in a room, and that you matter. She was amazing at that. And I'm still trying to figure that out, right?
Right.
But so my mother, Maya Angelou, was a big influence. Read her through my whole childhood. used to dream about talking to her. I mean, like, have dreams that I was having sit down conversations with my,
Yes.
So she was huge. And I think that's about using voice and learning to use voice and how important words are. I feel like she taught me and teaches me. The third person would probably be my high priestess and best friend, Kelly Bailey. I was pagan solitary for 5 years, and she's the one. I don't know. It was kind of funny, right? Because I'm a Scorpio, 5 years of reading and studying and doing things on my own. I had enough discernment to say, God's, you got to send me a teacher, else I'm going to think I know everything, right? And in comes this Piscean priestess to show me I knew absolutely nothing, right?
Right.
And she's still to this day my best friend, my biggest cheerleader. And she opened up community to me, and her being a Pisces, I think she kind of rubbed away some of the rough edges.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Help to polish your rough edges. Yeah. Right. It's beautiful.
Thanks.
I myself, I'm predominantly solitaire. I do a lot of public events and rituals and things like that, but I'm not a part of a coven or anything like that. That's something people have been asking me as of late.
How do you feel about it?
I have contemplated joining covens in the past, and when I do those that I work with on the other side, I get like this resounding laughter. And the first time that I got it, I was like, "What does that mean?" But I think I have a pretty good idea of what it means, and it's if I'm ever in a coven, it's because I started it.
Right.
So I'm not looking towards that direction. At least not at this point in time. I have enough on my hands to manifest, or however you want to say that.
A Scorpio trait. We have there has to be some semblance.
Yes. And I know you just celebrated your birthday, so happy belated birthday.
Thank you, and happy upcoming birthday to you.
Thank you. I think it's becoming a theme this month. I'm having all Scorpios on the show.
It's the season for it.
Right. Yep. Maybe that's how I'll start theming my podcast, is I'll go, what's your sign? You want to do a segment on the podcast? Sounds like a terrible pickup strategy.
Right.
So, what other projects, what other kind of things are keeping you busy as far as like activism and doing the work? Because I know that you're also involved in some other things, and you're also trying to make some other stuff happen. So,
okay. So, somehow I've been going back and forth to Washington, D.C. quite a bit. Which is exciting. So end of August, I went for the I always get that word. Commemorate March.
Yes. Yeah.
Of Dr. King's March. So it was the 58th anniversary of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was beautiful. And then I just recently went to the Women's March to kind of stand up against the fact that we as voters weren't given the option to elect our officials before they installed the new Supreme Court justice.
Yes.
So I went out in support of that. And hopefully I'll be going January 20th if Biden wins. So I'll be going back for the inauguration, hopefully.
Right. Because at the time we're recording this, we still don't know the outcome, although it's looking like it's in favor of Biden. I shouldn't say that. I don't want to be the cause of that.
It's looking pretty blue. It's not official yet, but there's several pathways there. So
right. I feel like they're just playing with my emotions, but
they are. I saw a meme that was like Nevada and Georgia are looking at each other like, are you going to say it? You know?
Right. And then I heard another thing about Nevada that says, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So they're never giving us those results.
That's a good one.
Oh, I also have heard word that perhaps you're starting work or looking into starting a food pantry.
Yeah. And this is really inspired by my coven mates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have one that is just so into giving. And we need one in our area, right? Because it's Midland, Saginaw, Bay City. It's kind of our tri-cities here. And so it's something that I'm looking forward to doing. Right now, I think where I'm at is trying to figure out with things getting harder quicker for people, if it wouldn't be better to just donate,
Right. Yeah.
rather than come up with the funds to create a building. Um, and have a space for a closet and that kind of thing when that money could go directly to help people right
To
now.
the flow of food, right?
Right, absolutely. To the flow of food or clothes or hopefully bill assistance, whatever people might
Yes.
need at the moment. And so that's kind of where I'm stuck mentally right now with that, because I just want to figure out the best way to have the most impact.
Right. And in these times that we're in right now, especially with the numbers continuing to go up in terms of the coronavirus, it's difficult to plan physical space things. And keep hearing reporters asking the governor if she's going to shut the state back down. And she doesn't want to have to shut the state back down. She wants people to do the right thing. But unfortunately, a lot of people need to be made to like follow the science and to take precautions. And it's really sad. But here we are.
And it kind of reinforces that whole paranoia about government being involved too much, like I said, I live out here in Sanford, and the one thing that I can say that like being in, inner city neighborhoods and rural communities, like the common bond we share is nobody wants more government, right?
Yep.
Nobody wants to be told what to do. Um, but when we can't do common basic things, it forces mandates and requirements to happen.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Right. The other day, I had just said to somebody, if you don't want to feel like you've got a parent stepping in telling you what you can and can't do, then don't behave like you need a parent stepping in to tell you what you can and can't do.
exactly. That's perfect.
I mean, at my core, I'm actually an anarchist at my core. But I do know that we as a species are not evolved emotionally, intellectually, or otherwise to pull that off as a society. It would be like self destruction.
Right.
And that's unfortunate. I don't know what level of government to have. I would like what government we do have to be functional.
Yep.
That would be a good thing.
And responsive to the people. You
Right,
know,
do the job. You're here to represent us. You're our tool. You're our mechanism. You're not your own ruling body.
you're not your own ruling body, and you're not working for the corporations, in my opinion. Like it has to be about the people. And if nothing else, I am so excited about how many people were involved in this election, even the people that didn't vote the way I voted.
Right.
um,
150 million, I think, is what I've heard.
yeah. Well, I knew we were getting close to 150 million. Yeah. And it's crazy to think that, that's not what happens every year on something so vital.
Right. Because isn't our population 350 million ish?
Yes.
So still the numbers. But yeah, yay! A third of us voted.
Yeah, voted. We're paying attention finally, you know?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, definitely. So if you had a billboard, if you could have any billboard, what would it say and why?
Anybody who knows me, so my billboard would be own your shit.
Ooh.
Right. And I think that's the way I sum up personal responsibility, which I learned through my pagan path, right?
Yeah.
We can control and create the reality that we want to see, and that just transitions into activism and um our lives in general. We have so many choices that um we don't own the power to change, right? Like how I see the world, I am a reflection of. So I have to be what I want to see,
Yeah.
right? If I want to say why is nobody doing anything about this? Oh, I need to own my shit and get up and do something about it, you
Right.
know?
Right. Right. I could see that being a great billboard because it would remind you on commute to work or whatever, especially when you're in that mood.
Right?
I could see it being, oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I'm about to walk into this being an absolute dick. Okay. Let me check. Let me own my shit. Right. Let me not let me not infect anyone else with that.
Right. I'm responsible
Um,
for it.
right. Yeah. Accountability,
Yeah.
responsibility. Yep. Any wisdom that you would like to pass on to your descendants, to your great grandchildren, to your great great grandchildren?
That it always gets better and it always works out the way it's supposed to.
Mm.
So it may not work out the way I want them to, but I believe that things always work out the way they're supposed to. And sometimes it takes years, you know, of time and space to look back on a situation. Um, but I always know that that thing is what led me to here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that honestly the universe always works towards balance. And balance sometimes isn't what we want, even though we say that all the time, right? I want to be balanced. I'm a Scorpio. I like the extremes. I like to play along, right? I have to be honest about that, you know. And so but I think that everything works out the way it's supposed to for the betterment of all of us eventually.
Okay. So the long arc of existence. Yeah. So even if it's lifetimes, um,
Absolutely. But we have
I kind of agree with that too, but I also believe that that the work has to be put in.
oh, absolutely. We always have to move it in the
Yes.
direction we need it.
Yes. Because if we stop doing that, I don't think that it will move in that direction. And I don't know why that is, but it really feels like we have to keep putting the energy, like we're fueling something.
Right. So the way I kind of see that is, you know, and the way I taught my sons is, you know, the like when we talk about the environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our mother and how we treat her. Um, she is life sustaining and she's always going to be okay. Like, we are not going to kill the planet. She's going to rid herself of us long before that, right? Because she's going to move towards balance. So, what we have to do is decide whether we're going to be a part of that balance or not and move. And that's where the work is, right? If
Yeah.
we want to maintain our existence on this planet, we have to move towards, you know,
Right.
healing and
Right.
living balance. So I think there's still work with that, but it always works out. It's just who does it work out for? If you want it to be for your benefit. Oh, I did something. Shoot.
What
I'm
happened?
sorry, Jack. I lost video, but you can still hear me.
Okay.
I'm fixing.
So we had the little technical glitch there. But what you were talking about kind of made me think about the one question that I have here, one of the last questions I have actually, and that was, what is your best tip for making the world a better place?
Starting with yourself
Mm,
and working on the person that you are so that you can influence the people around you.
right.
So I think that sometimes, at least for me, what stopped me from getting organized and trying to move towards activism is, it just sounds like such an overwhelming task, right? Like, you look at whatever issue affects that you resonate with, whether it's human trafficking or whatever it is. And it's real easy to get overwhelmed. Like, this has been a problem for this long, and this is who's against us, and and
Yes.
it'll stop you in your tracks. But if we realize that how much power, again, that we have when we own our shit, you
Right.
know we have an impact. We have an impact through the people that we interact with on a daily basis. We can change a mind, a heart, um, a soul in a direction. And if you have a platform, gosh, I mean, so many people have platforms. I wish I paid more attention to, what kind of energy they were putting out there, but it's about making the world a better place. Is about starting with yourself so that you can put out the energy that you want to see.
Right. Right. Yeah. Be the change that you want to see in the world. And that's a literal statement.
Absolutely.
That's a literal statement. Yeah. And what you were saying about the environment and everything prior, yeah, it's a case of working with the environment instead of working against. And I think that sort of carries over into what you're talking about as far as let the change begin, start with yourself. Because when we do that, then we're starting to work with each other instead of working against each other. So it's sort of another principle. It's like working with flow instead of against.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We don't have to swim upstream all the time.
Right. We don't always have to be salmon, although we do sometimes. That's why it's there. That's one of my personal spiritual beliefs, is that everything that we experience, all of our emotions, everything out in the world exists in this bubble, in this sphere that we walk through for a purpose. So nothing is quote unquote out of place. It
Right.
might be exaggerated or out of balance, but it's all here for a reason. And so even like our negative feels and things, they're usually there to tell us something's wrong or something like that. There's a use for them.
Right. Something may need healing, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Pain and
Definitely.
negativity is always points towards something that needs to be healed.
Yeah.
Be with that completely.
Right. So is there anything that we did not cover that you would like to bring out into the conversation before we wrap up?
Nope, I think I bared a lot of my soul.
And
You
I
got
thank you
there.
for that. I thank you for that.
You're welcome. And
Um,
I want to thank you before we wrap up, Jack. This is an amazing project that you're undertaking to build community. And that's so important. We have such a rich, magical community here in Michigan. and I love seeing it spotlighted.
Yep. Yep.
You're doing work.
I'm working my way through Michigan and then I'm going national. Yep. Yep.
I love Asheville. I went there for the first time like 2 years ago.
Oh no, I said national, but yeah, Nashville
Oh,
will be covered too. Nashville will be covered too. Yeah. Yep.
yeah,
They're not
national.
excluded. um well, before I forget, I want to make sure that and thank you for that, Krista. That means a lot. Because I've gotten a little bit of feedback about the podcast, but not too
No,
much. So
listen, I love it. I think you are really weaving the web there.
thank you. Thank you. That's my intention here. So
Good.
but before I forget, I want to make sure that you tell people how to stay in touch with you and how to contact you if they need to.
I mean, honestly, Facebook, I'm always on it. I would love to say, oh, I'm never on Facebook. No, I'm always on Facebook. I answer my Facebook messages quicker than my text, It's so bad.
But you're owning your shit. Look at that.
Right. That I will do. But so Krista Mann at Facebook is the easiest way. Like I said, we have the Mobile BLM Visual Project. That's how it's written. It's the Mobile BLM Visual Project Facebook page. If you want to be involved in that. And the one thing I want to say about getting involved in that is that it is as easy as you want it to be, and that the structure is intentional. So, if you only have, $20, but you can't spend the time, great, do that. If you have no money, but you have a Sunday to build crosses, great, do that. If you're willing to come show up and read 50 names off of a list, do that. Like it's very inclusive for whatever level of involvement people want. And
That's
that seems to
beautiful.
be working really, really well. It's getting people involved that normally wouldn't, and that's the point, you know. So there's that. I am co-founder of the Mid Michigan Pagan Alliance, and that was our community building venture here in the Saginaw, Midland, Bay City areas. You guys, Flint and Detroit, you guys have a very vibrant community going here. I think we still have small clusters and lots of people who don't know how to get involved in the community yet, right? That there's other like-minded people. So Mid Michigan Pagan Alliance, that page is really meant to share space of what's going on in the pagan community, who's giving a class, who's doing whatever, what's going. So if anybody has things that they're wanting to share, I really invite you to post whatever event or class or workshop or talk you're giving on that page.
Done. And so is there anything else, any other ways that we can get a hold of you?
No.
That's okay. Very good.
Facebook, awesome. Facebook, and Facebook.
Facebook, and more Facebook. Thank you so much again, Krista. It's been awesome having you on here. And I want to say thank you for doing the work that you do. And I want to thank all of the people who help you to do the work that you do. It's a tremendous benefit, and it's something that's needed in the community. So
perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.